Well, good morning. Welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. So glad to have you with us this morning. Today I did some experimentation with a keto dessert, Blackberry Cobbler. And you know, fruit is very limited when you're eating a keto diet, a low-carb diet, for me a diabetic diet. But blackberries and strawberries pretty much fit within all the guidelines. So I made a Blackberry Cobbler. And I have to tell you that this was an experiment, and I think my next one will be even better, and I'll show you lessons learned. But this was good, and boy, it makes you feel better when you've been craving something and you can come up with something that fits your lifestyle. So before I show you how to make it or how I made it, please give us a thumbs up if you like our videos, and we would love to have you subscribe. If you click the little bell in the top right, you'll get a notice when I post new videos. Now let's get cooking. So let's talk about ingredients and carbs. I'll start with the blackberries. 6.2 net grams of carbs per cup. This package is 2 cups. And I used the whole package, so that's 12.4 grams of carbs in the cobbler from the blackberries. And then this is CarbQuick. This is 1 cup of CarbQuick, and I've showed you CarbQuick before. You can get it on Amazon. 6.6 net grams of carbs. This is a cup of Splenda. You can use a different sweetener if you like. I like Splenda. This is 1.5 teaspoons full of baking powder and a half teaspoonful of salt. This is 1 cup of milk. I have a stick of butter, and I have a cup of water. Now, I'll tell you as I go, this is a variation on the cuppa cobbler. If you're not familiar with that, it's also called Crazy Crust Cobbler. And I'm going to add some Sukrin Gold. I don't know if you've tried this. This is my first time trying it. I've read good things about it. I got concerned when I read the package and it said it had 8 grams of carbs per teaspoonful, because that's almost as much as sugar. Actually, I think it might be a little bit more than sugar. But I did some research, and that's sugar alcohols. Now, sugar alcohols affect some people badly. This is an option here. You don't have to use it. I just used it because it caramelizes a little bit more like sugar than Splenda does. So I have 1 cup of the CarbQuick and my baking powder and salt, and I've put it all in my food processor. And if I can get the lid on, I'm going to mix it together. Normally with flour, you would sift those 3 dry ingredients together, but you can't sift CarbQuick. I mean, I guess you could if you had a big enough sifter with holes big enough, but I don't. And so I just put it in the food processor and whirl it around. It fluffs it up and mixes it together. And then I'm going to add the Splenda, and about 2/3 of it. And the separation is not crucial, but I want most of it in the crust, and then I'm going to put some of it in the blackberries and cook those together, let it melt. Yeah, that's about 2/3, 1/3, close. It's just better if you get the sweetness uniformly throughout the cobbler. And then I'll mix all this together a little bit in lieu of sifting. And then I'm going to add the milk. And I'm just going to dump it in there and mix it all together. I mean, I could take all this out and put it in another bowl and then use a mixer, but why would I do that? So I'm just going to mix it all in here. If it were flour, I would do that, because once you've added the liquid to regular flour, then you start messing with the gluten if you beat it too much. But with CarbQuick, it's different. Well, I was going to show that to you, but I can see it's still got some lumps in it, so I'm just going to beat it some more. Now, CarbQuick has different properties than flour. It has a close result when you're using it to bake, but it's a little bit different, and it takes it longer to rehydrate with your liquid. So I'm going to mix it up first, and then I'm going to let it sit for a while, and I'll just show you the texture we've got. See, it's pretty thick, and we're going to need it to be a little thinner than that when we actually put it in the cobbler. So I will add a little bit more milk, but first I'm going to let it hydrate. So here we go. Let's cook our blackberries, because these are frozen. Back here I've got 1 stick of butter in a 10-inch skillet. Lesson learned. Next time I'm going to use a 9-inch skillet and a half cup of water instead of a cup. This is just a little bit. I didn't quite get the crust to filling ratio right, but I know now what to do. I'm going to use next time half a cup of water, 1.5 cups of blackberries instead of 2, because this tasted wonderful, but it didn't have quite enough crust. The crust to fruit ratio was not quite what I wanted. So I've put the rest of the Splenda in here, the water, and the blackberries, and I'm just going to let these heat until they come just to a simmer and the Splenda melts. So I'm going to reflect this in the info section in the ingredients. So this is after about 5 minutes sitting and rehydrating, and you can see that it's no longer a batter. It's too thick. So I'm going to add 2 more ounces of milk. And I'm using whole milk, by the way. You really need the extra richness of the whole milk. You could even use partially heavy whipping cream. And the richness, the extra fat is not an issue if you're eating keto. So that's my 2 ounces of milk. And you're going to need to judge this, yours according to the weather and the atmosphere. It might only need 1 ounce of milk. But you want a batter that will pour, not something as stiff as what I showed you before. So here we go. I'll show you. See, you've got a batter here that will pour. So here is my melted butter in a nice warm pan. I'm going to pour a little bit of this crust, or this batter, which will be the crust, on the bottom, and then I'm going to spread it out just a little bit, and I will add my blackberries. My oven, by the way, is preheated to 400 degrees. If I were using flour, I would cook it at 425. You cook just a little bit lower temperature for a little bit longer with CarbQuick. And in go the blackberries. And then over the top, I'm going to spread the rest of this batter as much as I can. And you can see when I'm doing this, the reason next time I'm using a 9-inch pan. And you don't have to use a cast iron skillet. You can put this in a casserole dish. My 9-inch would have been perfect because I would have gotten almost full coverage with this batter. You know, this cuppa or Crazy Crust cobbler is what my mother uses all the time now after years of childhood with a different kind of cobbler. This is all she makes now, and sometimes she just makes a small one just for her. So before I go into the oven, I'm going to put a little of this Sukrin on top just to give it a little brownness. CarbQuick doesn't quite brown like biscuits either, so we're making adjustments for using this alternative flour. As I say, the Sukrin is optional. I just wanted that little crunchy on the top. 40 minutes later, we've got this bubbling cobbler. And as I said, this is an experiment. It looks really good, smells wonderful. We're going to eat a little bit of it and taste it. A 9-inch skillet would have made it perfect. So here we go. This is our Blackberry Cobbler. I'm going to go over the carb count for you in the info section. And it's not going to include this little bitty dab of whipped cream that I made just for me. Just a 1/4 cup of whipping cream. And let's give this a taste. It's thick and it's rich. And it looks like cobbler. And it tastes like cobbler. You know, the CarbQuick is good stuff. It does have a little flavor that's not exactly like flour. But when you're using it in something like this, you don't get that little bit of flavor. This just tastes like a cobbler made with a flour crust. You know, to me, living on a low-carb diet is all about managing your cravings and your boredom. And something like this can help you manage those cravings and manage that boredom and stay on your chosen diet. Thank you for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. I hope you try this. I hope you like it. And I hope you join us again tomorrow.